श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण।
Hare Krishna, everyone. Get started in a second. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraet Nashtaprayasu Abhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 7th chapter, 41st words. The canto title, The Status Quo, and the chapter title, Further Inquiries by Vidura. Sarve Vedascha Yajñascha Tapodanani Chanagha Jiva Bhaya Pradanasya Na Kurviran Kalam Api. Sarva Vedascha Yajñascha Tapodanani Chanagha Jiva Bhaya Pradanasya Na Kurviran Kalamapi. Sarve Vedascha Yajñascha Tapodanani Chanagha Jiva Bhaya Pradanasya Na Kurviran Kalamapi. Synonyms: Survey, all kind of. Veda, divisions of the Vedas. Cha, also. Yajna, sacrifices. Cha, also. Tapa, penances. Danani, charities. Cha, and. Anagha, O spotless one. Jiva, the living entity. Abhaya, immunity from material pangs. Pradhanasya, of one who gives such assurance. Na, not. Kurviran, can be equalized. Kalam, even partially. Api, certainly. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. O spotless one, your answers to all these questions will grant immunity from all material miseries. Such charity is greater than all Vedic charities, sacrifices, penances, etc. Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The highest perfectional work of charity is to give people in general immunity from the anxieties of material existence. This can be done only by performing activities in devotional service to the Lord. Such knowledge is incomparable. Cultivation of the knowledge in the Vedas, performance of sacrifice, and distribution of munificent charities altogether cannot form even a part of the immunity from the pangs of material existence that is gained from devotional service. The charity of Maitreya is not only will help Vidura, but due to its universal nature, will deliver all others in all times. Thus, Maitreya is immortal. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namo. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaiham Dadati Swapadantikam Bandeham Sri Guru Sri Uttapada Kamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Visakha Vitamsha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari, Vrishabhanusute Devi, Pranamami Haripriye, Vanchakalpataruvescha, Kripasindhuvaevacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namo. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So thank you so much for joining me in discussing about this very powerful verse. We are getting close to the end of this chapter. Tomorrow will be the end of this chapter, and then we start chapter 8. And there are many more interesting topics which we are going to discuss as we go along this discussion between Viduraji and Maitreya Muni. So, in this verse, which is towards the end of this chapter 7, there are some key things which Vidurji is talking to Maitreya Muni in trying to glorify Maitreya Muni as to how his answers are taking away pain from these material sufferings, and how, and he's using some very key words here. Here Vidurji is explaining Anagha, and he's basically referring to Maitreya Muni as the spotless one. Essentially, whenever we talk about this Srimad Bhagavatam is referred as Amala Purana. It's actually a spotless Vedic scripture which basically cleanses everything. And here, Vidurji is referring to Maitreya Muni as a spotless person, and by virtue of giving response to these questions, he's actually taking away pain from others. So essentially, in this age, when everybody is looking for immunity, whether it is immunity from a virus, whether it is an immunity from anything which has to do with suffering, how the suffering can be curtailed and how the enjoyment can replace the suffering so that we get insulated from suffering is the key now. Now everybody is after that. And here, Vidurji is saying, by listening to the answers Maitreya Muni you are giving for time immemorial, and he's referring to Maitreya Muni in the form of he's immortal through his words and through his answers, because these answers are going to live forever. And that's the kind of relationship he is seeing. This is the kind of direction he's seeing in Maitreya Muni. And that's where Maitreya Muni is referred in a very high degree by Vidurji. And there he's saying, by giving the answers to these questions, by 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 making me perform devotional service of the Lord, and the knowledge by which I get inspiration to do devotional service of the Lord is actually is so much that you do munificent charities, you do different other pious credits. It's actually not even any comparison to that. So here he's mentioning cultivation of the knowledge in the Vedas, performance of sacrifice, distribution of munificent charities, whatever pious credits we get from that. And in comparison to that, this answers Maitreya Muni is giving is actually no comparison to that. So Prabhupada is saying the highest perfectional work of charity is to give people in general immunity from the existence of material anxieties of material existence. So when we give this this very top-notch message of the Supreme Personality of Godhead to others, and by which the Lord, who is Hari, who basically takes away. Hari is someone who har leta hai. That means he basically takes away all the material anxieties from us, from every individual, by virtue of there is so much of suffering which is going on right now. And by any way, this highest perfectional work of giving the message of imbibing or rather, getting into the mode of devotional service is so high that in comparison to acquiring knowledge from the Vedas or doing some sacrifice or distributing some charities, you put together all the benefits of this, but the spreading of this holy name, which imbibe others to take on devotional service, is the topmost. And there is no comparison of that, even if you put all the other things in total. That's why Maitreya Muni is immortal, because he is giving the message, and thousands years have passed, but his message of how the universe was created, how we should treat our gurus, some of these wonderful topics we have listened in the last 1 or 2 months is priceless. That's the reason why whenever we go to book distribution, people ask us, what is the price of the Bhagavad Gita? And we try to look for the price, and the price is not there in our Bhagavad Gita as it is. And they say, hey, there is no price in this book. Every other book has a 9.99 or a 14.99, but your book doesn't have a price. And our answer to them should be, this book doesn't have any price because this book is priceless. Because you can't put a price to Bhagavad Gita. And that's the reason why they can choose to give whatever, but at the least they should recognize that they're taking a priceless scripture home, and whether it is $20 or $25, there is no harm in they donating, because this book is priceless. It has changed the life of so many people in this world, and that's exactly how Vidurji is trying to tone down to Maitreya Muni by saying how priceless your answers are, because it is delivering people. It is basically giving, happiness. It is basically detaching the aspect of suffering from the minds of the people, and that is such a key component of this verse as to why uh, this spotless person is giving responses which is taking away, and everybody in this world wants a vaccine from a small virus, and that is because everybody wants to get rid of all the sufferings. There are so many sufferings we saw in 2020 and into 2021, where a little organism gave so much pain, and finally, to gain immunity from that, we got a virus, and that also has some side effects. But with so much of duress we went through in 2021, we could recognize that in this span of 2021 and 2022, when everywhere there was pain, suffering, there was this common theme of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam in the morning, which gave us that element of happiness and basically took away the suffering. Because when we start understanding the basics of who we are and where we come from, it basically eradicates a lot of our question. So Krishna is telling to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita that you really do not have to worry about win or loss, because Arjuna was saying, I'm going to miss everybody. If I kill them, how will I enjoy with them, because they are gone? So we can't really. So there, Krishna is saying, whether you kill them or somebody else kills them, they're already killed. They have already been taken care. But Arjuna, he's referring to Arjuna as Sabyasachi here in this verse, and he's referring to this last quadruplet of this verse, Nimitra Matram Bhava Sabyasachi. That means you are just an instrument, you are just Nimitta Matra. They have already been taken care of. So, in this aspect of my direction to you, just become an instrument. Whether you take care of them or somebody else takes care of them, I have already taken care of them. So you just become an instrument. So in all these references to the glories of Maitreya Muni, when he is talking about giving answers to Vidurji, it's all about being a small instrument, be a small squirrel or a small ant, in actually passing some of these eloquent responses which would eradicate the suffering. And this is where we give this classic example. A kid is with a rich father. He goes to the fair, and he gets separated from the father. And some people come and they give him, fruit juice or some food. It takes care of the suffering in a very, very, very little way, in a very, very material way. And somebody, comes to him and tries to pacify him, give him a massage, and that is where they want to do some. So these are the people who try to give him some longer relief from the separation. But finally, the person comes. He recognizes that, hey, I have seen your father at this crossing. You just go there. He is just waiting for you. And that person has actually done the trick, and he has given relief to everyone. It's not the person who gave the fruit juice. It's not the person who gave him some massage to get him relief, like some of the karmis and some of the so-called yogis would end up doing. But a person who connects the kid who is lost from his father in the fair by telling him that, hey, you go there, you follow these steps, you chant the holy name, or whatever the process may be with the devotional service, and there you're going to meet your supreme father. So that is the real uh, thing, and that is where Viduji is saying there is no comparison. There is absolutely no comparison between a person who invites somebody else to take up Krishna consciousness, or he basically spreads the message. And that's where Krishna is saying, just become an instrument. You don't have to do everything. That's the reason why Srila Prabhupada, in many of his quotes, used to say, Krishna sent me here. I told him that, I do not want to go to this material world. He said, just go there and write some books. And later, when Srila Prabhupada wrote some books and some of his classes, he would refer, I have not written this book. Krishna has written this book, and he just used my hand or my pen to traverse through the pages and come up with the book. So it's actually Srila Prabhupada's deep realization as to where he was in terms of surrenderness, in terms of becoming that small little instrument in Krishna's message to spread the holy name and spread the big message. And actually thinking about it, when Srila Prabhupada wrote this book, and most of these books are written in either Sanskrit or Bengali, actually none of us have the right lexicon understanding of those books. So if Srila Prabhupada wouldn't have translated and given the purport of a bhakti yogi, then we wouldn't have truly understood Krishna the way we have understood now through these beautiful verses. We are now able to search, we are able to cross-reference, and as some of the Prabhus mentioned, we can arrive the context by crisscrossing and not just go by the text and come up with this context by crisscrossing each of these verses as to how it relates to each other. So if and forget about us, even our kids, they won't be reading it, because in this country they don't even have any other language support. And today, because of Srila Prabhupada's translation to one of the main languages, it has been translated to 100 more languages. So essentially it started with Sanskrit and it was translated to English, and from English it is translated to hundreds of languages. So what a way. And in this entire thought process, if you think, who has done the work? This is a magnanimous work, and this piece of work couldn't have been complete without the Supreme Personality of Godhead helps. And rightly so, Srila Prabhupada mentions these books are not written by him, it's actually written by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and I was just a simple instrument. And the instrument was the pen which travels through the pages, and it came up with a masterpiece, but eventually it was all taken care. So here, it's a very and trying to dwell more on this words, we realize that this place is full of danger. Every step of the way, every cross street we go into is full of danger. Padam padam yet vipadam natesam. Just focusing on that specific portion of the quadruplet. Padam padam, every step, vipadam. What a poetic way to communicate. Padam padam vipadam. Vipadam means danger. Vipad is danger. Padam padam yat vipadam. Every step of the way there is danger in this material world. But for those who have accepted the boat of the lotus feet of the Lord, who is the shelter of the cosmic manifestation and is famous as Murari, the enemy of the Mura demon, the ocean of the material world is like a water containing a calf's hoof print. Vatsapadam, Vatsapadam. So whenever we are in this material world, which is like an ocean, and with a boat, we can't really traverse through the ocean. But when once you surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that ocean becomes like Vatsapadam. What is Vatsapadam? It becomes whenever a calf, whenever there's a sweet cow and he gives birth to a calf, and when the calf goes on a mud, and whenever he steps the foot on a mud, there is a small hole. So what Srimad Bhagavatam is saying here, this when you surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead Murari in this example, the ocean becomes a small water body, which is actually a imprint of the calf's footprint. So when the calf puts his leg on a mud, it becomes so small. So from a huge ocean, which you cannot even control, which we cannot even envision going across, it becomes the ocean shrinks and becomes like a calf's footprint. And when there's water in that, you can easily cross. So here, Srimad Bhagavatam, they're saying that goal is Param Padam Vaikuntha, the place where there's no material miseries, not the place where there is danger every step. So then this entire ocean of misery becomes a small hoof print and water contained in that. And then it's so small that we can easily cross. So what a beautiful way to represent the power of Supreme Personality of Godhead in having that element of surrender. So, and how do you do it? How do you do it? Um, so we have Tarorapi Sahisnuna. The Taror means tree. So tree is there. Tree, whether it is winter, summer, it's giving that element of shadow to all of us. And here there is a reference to Yatha Taror Mula Nischinena. That means when we pour water, because whenever you um, take some food and put it on our hand, we don't get any nutrition, we don't get any nourishment, even if there is a small process of osmosis. If we take some food and put it near our belly, which where it is eventually go from outside, it doesn't make any uh, advantage to the person who is really consuming the food. But when the food is taken into the mouth and it goes through the process of digestion, you get nourishment or energy. Likewise, here, just by giving water to all the other parts, this fanning our personal ambition or personal likingness or an ability to enjoy, that is truly not going to give us nourishment. By pouring water on the root of the tree, it energizes the trunk, branches. Just by giving tree to trunk, branches, twigs, is not going to give nourishment, but pouring water to the root gives nourishment. And as supplying food to the stomach enlivens the senses and limbs of the body, simply worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead through devotional service automatically satisfies the demigods who are part of that Supreme Personality of Godhead. So there is a problem which is mentioned in this discussion, and there is a solution. So how we take up to the solution is very, very important. And that is where let's try to understand a little bit about this two very, very wonderful, powerful, and very inspiring personalities. So here you see Gaur Gobind Maharaj and Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj. So Gaur Gobind Maharaj, when he was towards the end of his exhibited pastimes in this material world, he was very, he was not able to move. He was having pain in the joints and he couldn't even sit. Sometimes he used to have a lot of suffering. and he had a lot of misery. So what the devotees would end up doing is he'll be sitting in a in a wooden structure. So there'll be 4 or 8 devotees who will lift it from the 4 corners, and they will take Gaurav Maharaj to the center where the Vyasasan is there, and there'll be hundreds and hundreds of people who will be waiting to hear him. And he will have so much of suffering before being taken there. But once he is in Vyasasan and he talks for 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, there's no pain at all. There is absolutely no pain, as if he is immune from the miseries when he is glorifying the Lord, when he is, getting into the process of thinking about the Lord or immersing into the pastime and trying to put forth the views of how his Guru Srila Prabhupada has taught him and how he would project that. So there is no suffering. He gets immunity right from there. You could see that those he was full of suffering before going to the Vyasasana, but when the Hari Katha starts, when the flowing of the holy name starts, he's just immune to all of this. And then and that exemplifies the power of holy name as to how much it has touched um, him and how to what degree he has taken. And when Bhaktivedanta Maharaj was suffering towards the end from one ailment, Radhanath Maharaj went, and Bhaktivedanta Maharaj was listening to Kirtan and was meditating, and he was totally immersed in that. And Radhanath Maharaj asked, "How do you feel, my dear God brother?" And then, with so much of sweetness, Radhanath Maharaj asked, and then Bhaktivedanta Maharaj says, very emphatically, he says, "It can't get better than that." That means his hearing of the holy name, getting immersed into the holy name, thinking about the pastime of the holy name, right in his final days when he's not even able to perform any devotional service, per se physical devotional service. He's always doing devotional service in his mind by thinking, by meditating, and all the, the 9 processes he was actually doing it even when he was in the final days. But this aspect, that how deeply he took to it and how the suffering just couldn't touch him, the suffering stayed away. And even in the greatest suffering, in a very deadly disease like cancer, he was immune. He was literally immune from it. At that level, he is saying it can't get better than that. What an emphatic way to say the power of the holy name, the power of the scriptures, the power of listening to some wonderful topics which are essentially core to our soul. That's the reason why whatever we do, whatever we end up doing, it doesn't give us happiness after a year or two. It's like chewing the chewing gum, which basically sticks to us, and we can't even throw it properly, and we can't even enjoy it after 5 minutes. So the material world is exactly like that, exactly like a chewing gum. It never gives us the full happiness. So finally, the only aspect is, as mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita, this is something we have heard many times. Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Sastra Khoy, Labha Matra Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Siddhi Hoy. That means if you meet a sadhu for 1/11th of a second, not 1/10th of a second, 1/11th of a second, and you have taken to that 1/11th of a second, labha, 1/11th of a second, with deep humility, and have accepted the instructions properly, then sarvasiddhi hoy. That means all the success can be arrived just by virtue of having a very small association. Srila Prabhupada has met his Guru Maharaj very, very few times, or any way you may have met some amazing personality from our Guru Parampara for a small time. But when you read about them, when you read their works and something they have written, it may have inspired you. And that's the reason why Sarvasiddhi Hoy. And that takes us back to what Vidurji is saying, that Maitreya Muni is immortal. That means through his answers, he has taken care of all the sufferings in the whole world. With that, I'd like to end here. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Anyone has questions, comments, reflections, quick ones? Already 7. Nothing. Thank you very much, Jagańnātha Prabhu. So this Friday is Chaturmasa starting, fasting from green leafy vegetables, which means spinach, kale, etc. In some places it's also, generally it is sock, but in some places it's also mentioned green leafy, which means other things also may come. But use your discretion. Specifically, it is calling out spinach, but it's up to you how you take it. But main thing is for Chaturmasa, how to increase our devotion service more than this fasting. Don't go too much into Hari Bhakti Vilas and read on this, not supposed to eat this and that. Otherwise, we'll caught up with rules and regulations too much. So we'll offer 3 times prayer today also in Jagannath Puri. They're doing the other Pana. I think Lord Jagannath will be, and Lord Baladev and Lord Subhadra Mara and Sudarshanji will be taken inside the altar. Looks like Niladri Vijay will be happening also as well. I think. So let's chant 3 times Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare
Hare Hare. Jai Narasimha, Jai Narasimha, Praladesha, Jai Padma, Padma Bhakta, Gramviram Mahavishnu,
Shimam Bhadram Mrityum
भगवान की जय, प्रहलाद महाराज की जय।
Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Let's offer our obeisances to all the Vaishnava devotees on this call and all over the world. Vancha kalpatarubhyasya Vaishnava ki jai.
श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय।
Thank you, Hema Jagańnātha. Great class.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
हरि बोल।
Thank you, Hari Bol, Hare Krishna.
Thank you.